Never, ever, ever let someone tell you that you're too obsessed when they're not successful. The person who earns a 60K salary and works 9 to 5 and just gets hammered every weekend, living paycheck to paycheck, mortgage, stress-filled, circle of life that every single Tom, Dick and Harry follows. If you don't want that, get the fuck out of that. And don't fucking listen to people who are not successful, who are lazy cunts. Don't listen to them. But you have to understand that in the transition period between you waking up, that reality check moment where you realize you don't want that life anymore, and the time you actually get to the life you want to, there's probably going to be a year or 2 or even 5 that you have to go through an ultra lonely period where we can be an elite team together. And she gets her winnings as well. We're a team. She cooks, she cleans, she runs the household. I make the bread. And together we're a fucking partnership. And eventually we'll have a baby. And together we'll make an elite family. And that's what I want. I want someone on my team who's also able to support my obsession. Some people are going to think this is full-on toxicity, but those same people are never going to be successful. I'm going to attach this to my car so I can drive. But let's talk about obsession and people who are genuinely obsessed with what they do. And let's talk about whether that's healthy or not. Because some people don't think that working 60 hours plus a week is healthy. There's no right or wrong here, I don't think. But I was just talking to our editor who's from Portugal, and he's flown down to be with us. He's flown down to complete our free course, and it's obviously much easier working with him next to him in the office rather than always working via correspondence. But he's been watching me a lot throughout the day, and I spend a lot of time talking about content, talking about all sorts of different social media platforms, engagement, views, analytics, social media, metrics, and all sorts of different things. And we're constantly looking for ways to grow our business. And for me, that is my life. It's all I think about. Literally all I think about. I've got a fiance, I've got my mum, my sisters, I've got my 2 business partners, I've got the team as well in the business. I train a lot now. That's probably something that I've reconfirmed, something that I grew up through my 20s, being absolutely obsessed with fitness and running and gym. And probably for the past 3 years, from about 2020 to 23, start of 24, I wasn't as into my fitness. And I reckon one thing, apart from the fact that I wish I filmed more content through the start of my business, was staying more fit and staying more active. Even though I didn't do nothing, I didn't really do much running. Probably went to the gym an average of maybe 3 times a week on average. Like obviously there would have been weeks where I went 6 times, and then there would have been other weeks where I went once. So on average about 3 times a week. So nothing terrible, still active, still quite fit, still lean, never got fat or anything. But for me, the business fully took over my life. And back to the point, can you be too obsessed with your business or with whatever you're doing? And I don't think it's a matter of being too obsessed. I think it's more a matter of communication and a matter of, if you know that you want to achieve something, you need to understand that if you want to be the best, you can't actually not be obsessed. If you want to be the best. If you don't want to be the best, then you don't have to be obsessed. But you look at anyone who's ultra mega successful, Hormozy, Chris Williamson, these kind of people, they're the best at their craft, and they're all obsessed at one thing. They don't do 100 things, they just do one thing, and they absolutely obsess about it. I remember this very clearly from Chris Williamson's talk when he came to Melbourne. And he said all of these people who are ultra successful are literally idiots. I don't know if he actually says idiots, but he said something along those lines. He basically said that all of these people who are ultra successful are literally idiots. And that doesn't mean they're stupid, it just means that they're like me and you, normal people, and they just did the same thing for literally years. He used the Joe Rogan analogy. I haven't heard this one, but again, from Chris Williamson. He said, you just put a layer of paint over and over and over again. And you know, a layer of paint is literally micro thin in terms of its depth. It has no thickness. But if you put enough layers of paint on the wall, all of a sudden that wall is going to get thicker over time. And that comes from stacking reps on reps on reps on reps. Consistency of reps, volume over time. And if you obsess about what you are doing and you do it for long enough, it is literally harder to not be successful than it is to be successful. I was just talking to Roberto before in the office, and he won't care about me saying this, but I asked him, do you think you're more on the spectrum of wealthy or more on the spectrum of poor? Now, those two words are extreme ends of spectrums. Now, he said, I'm not poor, but I said, where are you on that spectrum? And he said, closer to poor. And I'm like, yes, I already know this, because financial freedom for him is not a thing. If you put it a bit nicer, are you financially free? He straight away says no. And I said, well, what are you doing about that? Last week, Steve, one of the other directors in our company, he sat down with Roberto, and Roberto said, how do I make more money? Because he's around us. He sees us making money. He sees us growing. He sees the amount of volume of stuff that's happening in our business. And he's probably a little bit overwhelmed by that. He's just a one-man show. But Roberto said to Steve, he's like, I can do more work, but I can only do a little bit more. I can only get 1 or 2 more clients. And Steve said, how many hours a week are you working? And Roberto said, 30 to 40. And Steve said, well, do 60 or do 80 and see what happens. And it's that simple, because if you're doing 50 hours a week instead of 40, or 60 hours a week instead of 40, or 80 hours a week if you want to go extreme, or more, imagine how many hours ahead of yourself you're going to get by doing those extra hours. That's obsession mode. That's why I'm where I am today. But the only way I have got to where I have now is because I have obsessed about what I do. And I've worked out that that is the only way to get really good at the thing you want to get good at. You cannot get good at anything by just doing half reps or doing things semi-consistently or half volume, or most importantly, for a small amount of time. Above all, time is going to make you an enormous amount of success, right? You can obsess for 6 months and do ultra mega 80 hours a week for 6 months. But if you only do that for 6 months and someone else does 40 hours a week for 5 years, they're going to beat you, because 40 hours by 5 years is better than 60 hours by 6 months. So I know this started off as, is it bad to be obsessed? Because I asked Roberto in the office before, I'm like, do you think I'm too obsessed? He said, yeah, you are too obsessed, but it's good. I'm like, so is it too obsessed or is it good? And he's like, it's too obsessed, but it's good. I'm like, well, it can't be too obsessed then. It's either good or it's obsessed and it's okay. And he's like, well, yeah, obsessed, but good. So you actually need to be obsessed, but it's back to communication. I got ADD, so I go off on tangents. But when I said before it's back to communication, what I meant by that is you need to not have these rules and boundaries around what other people tell you, because the majority of people are going to say to you, hey, 40 hours a week, that's all you need to do. That's all you need to do to be successful. Anything more than that is way too much. You're going to burn out. Or make sure you have a rest. Make sure you've been doing too much work. Make sure you have rest. You need a holiday. It's like, no, I don't want a fucking holiday. I want to work because I like it. Oh, don't work on your holiday. You should be resting. No, I don't want to rest. I like working. And when you find something that you like doing, do it. Don't let people say what you should do. Don't listen to people, because they're not mega successful, especially if they actually aren't. If you're getting advice from someone who's not mega successful and you want to be successful, do not fucking listen to them, because they don't know what it takes to be successful. Worse, you can surround yourself with people who actually don't want you to be successful, so they'll subconsciously tell you not to do what you're doing because they can feel you as a threat, because they might want to keep you around and they can feel you changing to the point where you're leaving them behind. I've seen people's girlfriends, partners, not want them to do more work because they're scared that their boyfriend or partner is going to leave them behind. And that's fucking sad, because ultimately that person is not rooting for you. They don't want you to win because they're threatened by your growth. And you're going to find periods in your life, if you are someone who wants to be mega successful, where you're going to lose people who are not on that trajectory. Don't be scared of that. Because ultimately, you're going to go through a stage where you have this period of realization and paradigm shift, which happened to me, where you literally lose a lot of people because they simply don't have the same goals, beliefs, trajectory as you. And they're stuck in shitville where they're going out every weekend getting hammered, hungover on a Monday, feeling sorry for themselves on a Tuesday. On a Thursday, they're thinking about how they're going to get hammered tomorrow night, messaging their fucking contact to get bags for the night. And then by Monday, they do it all again. And then they're broke for fucking 5 years, living paycheck to paycheck. And then they're a victim and they want to say, oh, he got lucky. Fuck, he got kissed on the dick. His parents were well off. Oh, they just gifted him a business. No, cunt. That person did more reps than you and didn't fucking blow their life every weekend. Don't surround yourself with those people and don't fucking listen to people who are not successful, who don't want to win, who are lazy cunts. Don't do that. Don't listen to them. The moment you find these people that are doing that to you, as hard as it is, delete them. You don't have to have this mega fight. You just slowly distance yourself from them. You don't reply to their messages as much. You don't answer their calls as much. You say no to them going out, and then eventually they'll just drift off into the sunset. Doesn't mean you have to hate them, but they're just gone in the wind. And all of a sudden you realize being obsessed isn't as toxic as other people who aren't successful make it out to be. Because they're threatened by success because they don't have it. They don't have that thing that they're passionate about. They don't have that thing that they're obsessed about. So don't ask people who aren't obsessed about anything or who aren't successful for those advices, because they will give you the fucking wrong information. And find people who you can get on your team who understand you and can relate to you and who are on the same pathway and goals as you. Get a partner who supports your goals. Your partner is your most important fucking person behind you. My fiance is an absolute fucking legend. We have an elite partnership because she understands what I want and what my goals are. And first, I wanted a bit more balance in my life. If you went back to 2022, 2023 maybe. But ultimately, I've worked out that I don't want balance. I want to be a high achiever. I want to be the best at my craft. And I understand that requires ultimate obsession. Because I know that if I obsess over something, no one's going to beat me at my thing. And for me, that is really cool. Because I can literally sit there, do something I love, obsess about it, and not even feel bad about it. Because I know that everyone on my team is rooting for me to be obsessed and to put in the effort. She doesn't care if I do 12-hour days. She understands that that's my priority. And we've built up a partnership where I'm not going to neglect her. We're still going to have our time together. Sometimes, yes, I do a little bit too much. And sometimes I do go over the top. But she cares enough about my goals and is on my team enough to understand that. And the pendulum swings back the other way, where we can be an elite team together. And she gets her winnings as well. We're a team. She cooks, she cleans, she runs the household. I make the bread, and together we're a fucking partnership. And eventually we'll have a baby, and together we'll make an elite family. And that's what I want. I want someone on my team who's also able to support my obsession. Some people are going to think this is full-on toxicity, but those same people are never going to be successful. So if you're someone out there who's being told by someone else that you are too obsessed, tell them to shut the fuck up, and you don't have to say that, but just probably move on to someone else. Go find someone else in your corner who can support you and root for you. And trust me, when you have these people on your fucking side, it is a full-on different game. Promise. There's going to be a transition period where you'll have nobody on your team. The lonely period. It's fucking tough. You may even lose family members. You might not be able to relate to people anymore because you go to this different world where you can't even communicate with the average person anymore because they don't understand. The person who earns a 60k salary and works 9 to 5, or an 80k salary and just gets hammered every weekend, living paycheck to paycheck, mortgage, stressful, circle of life that every single Tom, Dick and Harry follows. If you don't want that, get the fuck out of that. But you have to understand that in the transition period between you waking up, having that paradigm shift, that reality check moment, that light bulb moment where you realize you don't want that life anymore, and the time you actually get to the life you want to, there's probably going to be a year or 2 or even 5 that you have to go through an ultra lonely period. And you just have to be willing to accept that. Anyway, there's no such thing as being too obsessed. The only time it's being too obsessed, I think, is if you start neglecting your health, if you start fully neglecting the people who matter to you, and maybe you become to the point where you're too obsessed where your morals just go down the drain. They're the 3 things that I think are negligible when it comes to being too obsessed. But other than that, don't fucking listen to people who say you're too obsessed, especially if they're not successful. There's no right or wrong here. Just make it work for you, and you'll work it out in the end. Just don't let people put boundaries and rules on you, because trust me, you don't want to listen to people who don't understand the game. Anyway, if you like this stuff, subscribe, send it to someone else. Get around this channel. I want to inspire young men to fucking absolutely become weapons at life. And I know this is possible because I've done it myself. I'm 32 years old. I'm on a journey of growth. I'm trying to inspire and change 1 million lives. I want to change 1 million lives before 2030. That's my goal. So subscribe to my channel. I'm going to keep sharing my lessons and mistakes and learnings because I want to change more people's lives. I don't want you to wait until you're 29 or 30 to work out your passion like I did. I want you to get to do that at 17 or 18. I want you to make $1 million by the time you're 22. It took me probably until I was 29 to do that. You guys can do that now with the internet and these people out there. Get yourself around those people and grab onto them and jump on their shoulders and listen to them. Because the more information you can learn off others, the more information you'll get for yourself, and ultimately your growth will be faster. But above all, never, ever, ever let someone tell you that you're too obsessed when they're not successful. Rant over. See you next time. Cheers.